Hey everyone, Mark from the Top Homeowner, and today we're going to talk about exterior outlet or receptacle covers that you have on your house. We're going to be replacing this type with another kind that's actually rated for weather when it's in use. These covers are great to keep outlets protected from the elements when they're not in use, but as soon as you open the cover, then these are no longer weather resistant. So if you're using these, for example, like in the wintertime, if you have Christmas lights plugged into them and you have these covers open, then they're not weatherproof anymore. We've got a couple different options here that I'll show you, and I'll be installing both types. So this is the first example. This is probably the most common style that you run into. This is a clear outlet or receptacle cover that is pretty deep. This is 2 3/4 of an inch deep on the outside. And you can see there's an example here of an extension cord that's plugged in to this receptacle with the cover closed. The nice thing about this as well is it also has an option to put a lock on the bottom. So if you have any concerns about someone potentially using your power that actually doesn't own the home, then you can lock this down. The other thing you can do is you can change the way this opens. So if your receptacle isn't mounted vertically, then you can flip it and mount it horizontally as well. So again, this is a really good option, pretty basic, pretty simple, but it gets the job done. Another option you have is this type, which is a lower profile option. It's basically the same thing as that other cover that I showed you. It's just less profile and you can't see as much. So you can see how deep this is here as compared to this one. It's a lot deeper. Both will do basically the same thing. The one thing that this one doesn't have, the low profile one, is it does not have an option to lock this. So if that's something that you are interested in, then I would go with the larger model here. But otherwise, they're basically the same. They're supposed to both let you be able to plug in a cord while it's in use and keep everything waterproof. So what we're going to do is in this video, we're going to go through the installation process for both of these, and we're going to start with this one. First, before we get started, we need to make sure the power is off at this receptacle. So we'll go shut off the breaker now. Now that the power is off to this, we can go ahead and remove this cover. So now we're just loosening this up here because it's got some paint. It's kind of holding this in place. All right, so let me open this up here and show you what's on the inside. It comes with a couple different adapters. It comes with the GFCI one installed, and since that's the one that we're going to be using, I'm going to leave this one here, and we're not going to switch this out. But just so you know, there are a couple of other different options that this includes. One is this for a typical duplex receptacle. This one here is for a single receptacle or a light switch. So if you do have to swap this out, you just have to pop this out from the back and then pop in the type that you need. The other thing here is this needs to be installed on a smooth surface, and since there's this build up of paint around the edge, we need to scrape this down and get this as flat as possible so we can have a tight seal on the back when we put this on. So we're just going to take this razor here and scrape off anything that's kind of sticking out. Since this is going to be installed this way, we need to take this lower port out so that way cords can go through the bottom. If we were going to switch this pin, then we'd have to leave this one in place and we'd have to pull this one out so that way the cord could go out the bottom. But since it's going to be installed this way, we're just taking this one out. We can discard that. And then to make the installation easier, I'm going to go ahead and pull this pin out of this cover so that way it's not in the way while we're trying to attach it. So basically you just push the end of this pin in, and then you can pull this out here, and then this cover can come off. That'll make it easier to get this installed. So these screws have been backed off. You can see here that they stick out quite a ways, and we did that because it's going to hook on to these holes here. So we're going to stick one of the screws in and get it on, and then we're going to do the same thing with the one on the top here. Push this in, slide it over. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to get these screws tightened down. Sure this is tight. We want that foam gasket to give a good seal. Don't want to over tighten it though. Just nice and snug. Now we're going to take these short screws and we're going to tighten this down as well. So that way this is installed as best as it can be. I'll stick this cover back on here. We'll stick the pin back in this. And there we have it. So now when we need to use this receptacle, we just need to pull this latch on the side here. We can open this up, can plug in our extension cord or whatever we need, and then close this back down, and it's still going to be a weatherproof connection. Okay, so for this type of a cover, you can see here it's the same thing. This one just has independent doors that open, and you can see this foam is kind of worn out and it really isn't doing a good job of sealing, especially this one that got painted. So since this is in the front of the house, we're going to be replacing this with this low profile version. So this is going to be a little bit better aesthetically. It's not going to stand out as much as the other cover. So here's the style out of the packaging. On this one, there's actually 2 clips on the corner that keep this closed. So we need to pull or put pressure on these 2 clips in order to open it up. So there's the outside here. And since this is for GFCI receptacle, we're gonna have to swap this plate out for duplex. So let's do that now. All right, so all we have to do is pop this out here. And then we will pop this one in. Pretty easy swap. Now we can take this cover off. All right. And we're gonna loosen this up just like we did on the last one. And we're gonna slip this on over these screws. Bottom one I got on, and the top one. There we go. Now we just need to tighten this down. While this still has the holes to put in additional screws, this receptacle doesn't have those holes, so these will be the only ones that will hold this in place. So that means this is done. And you can see how this works here. When you have a cord on the inside, this actually pops out and expands. There's a rubber gasket on the inside that allows it to expand and keep everything nice and waterproof. And when it's done, you can collapse this back down, and it's really low profile. All right, so that's about all there is to upgrading these covers. Again, this is a really great, quick, easy upgrade that you can use to help keep everything protected, especially if you're using receptacles outside, like I said, in the wintertime or if it's raining, things like that. So hopefully, if you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate you subscribing to the Top Homeowner channel, where our goal is to help you become the best homeowner that you can possibly be. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.